This is the Masa Comedia podcast on Wednesday the 15th of October. Our special guest on the show, Masa Comedia, was journalist, writer, raconteur, chanteuse, part-time mechanic and Mexican wrestler, David Owens. David joined us in the studio, a very dark, mean studio here.
Yeah.
And I hope you enjoyed.
But he owned the room, didn't he?
He did, he most certainly did. He was an absolute pleasure to have on. And as Jamie and I sit in his car now in rather embarrassed silence while his phone charges up, we are recording this introduction. Enjoy.
他的生日太惊讶，珍珠的心意太奇妙。
Those guys who were on early doors like Jordan Brooks, Liam Sfikes, Charlie Smith, Dan Thomas, Chris Choppin, Ted Sherez and Robin Morgan. Can you tell I'm reading from a piece of paper? You know, they've started to promote their own nights. And those are great clubs that have then sort of fostered the next generation. Sounds a little bit Star Trek, but you know what I mean, the next sort of...
It is a bit like that.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and Comedians podcast, and they had Josh Widdicombe on, and he was talking about how you almost feel as though there's comedians that are in your year. So it's like your year at school. So all these comedians that do the kind of big shows and succeed and do well, they think that's like their year. So it's like their gang. That was my year at school. Josh Widdicombe. It thinks like Nish Kumar is in his year and things like that. So I suppose it's probably quite similar to the guys who started off doing WUSA done really well.
Yeah.
And who are putting these nights on and bringing people who want to get involved in it through.
Exactly. I think it's much the same as the music scene in a way that, you know, you start a band, you get out, you gig, you meet other musicians, you start your own nights, you promote your own nights, and you create your own scene essentially. Because I think the same maybe as the music scene nationally in terms of record companies, there's only like 3 or 4 now. They've all sort of swallowed each other up, and there's 3 or 4 corporates. I think in the comedy world as well, there's more a sense of a DIY aesthetic, if that's right. Sort of locally, there's more people who are promoting themselves than ever before, so there's more the state of independence than there's ever been before. And that's really exciting to see that happening locally, and that was never there before. And, you know, 10 years ago, if you thought about Welsh comedians, well, what would you say? You'd probably say Max Boyce.
Oh, yeah.
And then maybe... Rob Brydon, possibly.
I guess.
And then Owen Money.
Yeah, oh, God.
You know, no Money.
Tony's a fan.
And that was it. So, you know, the rise of Welsh comedy has been inexorable in the last 10 years in the sense of how many people have actually come along and done quite well and continue to do quite well, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. So, obviously, being a judge on WUSA, you sit through a lot of comedy.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Have you? Sounds like a really harsh question.
No, it's not. Everyone likes to hear about this.
Right. Have you ever seen a really horrendous gig, a really horrendous performance? It's so funny it's bad. And if you mention mine and Tony's entries into WUSA 2014, we're going to go off air and it's going to get real up in here.
Well, as we're in a very sort of a dimly lit area of Cardiff right now, I was more than taken with the two of you. And if the others who voted you down, I wanted you to come through, as you can imagine.
Obviously,
yeah, you do. And to be honest with you, in a perverse way, it is quite entertaining.
I love it. I'm exactly the same.
It is quite entertaining. You do want to almost, because you can't, because you're a judge, but you do want to video it, put it up on YouTube and let it go viral. But I think that is probably unethical on so many levels. But it usually, I find it tends to be drama students who are trying out a character as part of their course, and they've got a monologue that they're desperate to memorise that has possibly 1, maybe 0, usually gags in it.
Yeah.
And they're always the worst, yes, possibly most entertaining. I know the other 2 judges tend to have no truck with it and probably get quite upset, take it a bit too personally, but I quite enjoy it, to be fair.
No, good man,
you know,
good man.
It's all part of the mix.
Absolutely. Okay, on the other side of things, and I appreciate that It's hard to single anyone out here, but do you have a sort of a favourite, if you like, on the local scene? I mean, a comedian that you wish you could see more of personally, someone who makes you laugh.
Well, I think just for his sort of the way that he came out of nowhere and sort of carved his way through the competition a couple of years ago like some sort of laser-guided comedic missile was Matt Rees, who obviously is going on to do great things, and he's on the national circuit, and he's just confirmed his first night at the Comedy Store in London. I think.
Great.
So, he's doing great. It was just, you have that every year. You have people that tend to come out of nowhere. You don't know anything about them, and they just tend to shock you almost. Because you don't know about them.
Yeah.
And it's like a cup upset or something.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And Matt was definitely that. And to see.
Hi, Jamie here. As you can probably tell, we had some slight technical issues with the recording of the podcast, which in no way, shape or form were to do with Tony's excessive drinking before the shows. We continued talking about Matt Rees for a little bit, and then we went on to chat about a real great newcomer to this year's WUSA, which was Gareth Hunt, whose first gig was at WUSA, and he went on to the final, and really compelling comedian, and our chat with Dave continues with him. Enjoy.
I met him.
That's right.
We'd done a gig together in Ebervale, the one that I nearly got glassed at by a diabetic.
Oh yeah.
And,
It's your own fault, mate. You were picking on him.
I was picking on her, to be
chocolate
fair.
bar, they don't like
yeah, she did not like me. But I gigged with him, and I said, "How long have you been doing it for?" He said, "Oh, I've done one gig. I've done WUSA, I got through." And then he went on to the final, and he was really humble about it, and really like, whoa. And he was brilliant.
Yeah.
I really liked him.
Yeah, he was just another one that you thought he's just got a spark there, but listened to everything and then just went out, talked to everybody, and just tried to get as many gigs as possible. Just went and introduced himself to everybody and said, "Look, can I get a 5-minute or a 10-minute or whatever spot?" And that's what he did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's half the battle, isn't it, Tony? Trying to get the gigs is harassing people on a continuous basis, often in the street.
Yeah, they love that.
So obviously, you're obviously clearly a gifted writer, a comedy connoisseur. You've got the funny bone.
You could write my CV for
You've got
me.
the twinkle in your eye. Have you
bless
ever
you.
been tempted to go on stage and give it a crack, give stand up a crack, or have you done it before?
Never, and I never would. And it's sometimes I think it's best if you know your limitations.
Yeah.
I would just not. Power to you two for doing it, because I think it takes so much guts, so much bottle, and a lot of nervous energy before a gig to get up there and do it. And however bad somebody is, they're a better man than I am, better man or woman than I am.
Oh wow. That's big to say.
That's
that,
right. for doing it, I just couldn't do it. I mean, maybe a couple of years ago, because you can make your mates laugh down the pub, can't you? But actually, just getting out of that comfort zone of your friends and then into a foreign environment, an alien environment, it's so difficult for just people who are just starting out, and to get over that hurdle takes a lot of guts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all power to everybody who does it.
Okay, we were having a chat earlier about the Welsh and Science Stand-Up Award competition, and you say it might change next year, the sort of the format of it. Are you all right to talk about that now?
Yeah,
it's like in an emotional way. You're all right to talk about it.
I might get a bit upset. Well, I think what we want to do, and Scott called a little bit of a meeting. We had a chat, just an informal chat about maybe what could happen, because at the minute it's quite formulaic in the sense that you have your heats at Chapter, you have your 2 semi-finals at Chapter Arts Centre in Cardiff, and then you have your final at the Glee Club. And we thought, because each heat is drawn at random, you may sometimes end up with people who are just starting out and people who are very experienced, and sometimes, not always, there's a disparity there. Sometimes, like you mentioned, Gareth, was fantastic, and there were other people in the heat who were far more experienced than him and didn't get through. But what we thought of doing maybe was having a preliminary, and we're just talking about it at the minute, having a sort of preliminary heat or two with brand new comics who have just started out, who've only just done a handful of gigs, and then having them on a level playing field,
Yeah,
if you like.
yeah.
And in a comfortable, friendly atmosphere that's not intimidating in any way. When you got people who are all on their side and just want to encourage them and then give them good feedback, and then they can go on and, either take it on board or give it up.
Or give it up, yeah.
I'm going to do this again. And then as for the heats, again, this is just an idea, so it's not confirmed, but maybe taking the heats out to other comedy clubs around the area, and possibly further afield. So, it may be a WUSA component of, say, Comedy Den at Porter's or Drones at Chapter, or, this is still to be discussed, but maybe that's what we're thinking about doing. That's if the promoters of these various clubs will have us, of course. But maybe it'll just freshen it up, introduce the competition to other people, because WUSA heats take place on a Monday night, which
it's not the best.
Is possibly not always conducive to comedy. But then we have had some incredible heats, and we've had ones that haven't been as incredible, to be fair.
I think it was
so
on
that might
the World Cup was on around about the last one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was like a fight to try and get people out. As I remember to my heat, it was either come and watch me or watch like Paraguay versus Iraq or something like that. And I'd probably end up watching that, to be honest with you, rather than watching it.
Rather than watch yourself do comedy. I'm gutted that I missed the first round of football to die at my WUSA set, to be honest with you.
Do you think, Dave, there's a chance that it would go to sort of, if there was local comedians to North Wales, for example, or West Wales, do you think that then they would all sort of get together on that level and do a sort of an area finals like they do in the Autoglass Trophy, or whatever it's called?
The Autoglass, this is the Autoglass Trophy of Welsh comedy competitions. I think it might be the only Welsh comedy competition, but it is, it's a great idea. If we were able to do it, pretty much Scott does most of this on his own, to be fair, so it's whether he will suffer another nervous breakdown having to put it together, I'm not sure, but it is a good idea. And we have had people from around Wales coming down to, we've had people from further afield who've got Welsh roots. Or maybe those who've even visited Wales get in as well.
It's pretty much what I went in the back of. Because as you can tell, I haven't got a very broad Welsh accent. Is that mine pretty much was mine pretty much was. Well, I've lived there for a little bit, and I like it. Can I join in? And they're like, yeah, it's fine.
Very inclusive.
Yeah, it's
very
fine.
inclusive.
Very inclusive.
Yeah, of course, everybody's welcome.
So just moving away from the local comedy. Do you often get a chance to go see any of the big hitters of the comedy world?
I did. I have to say, I did. Until my 5-year-old daughter came along. I've loved comedy for a long, long time. I'm in my 40s now, so I grew up in the 80s with the young ones, and when the sort of the seeds of the alternative comedy scene were being sown with Friday Night Live and Saturday Night Live, and Rick Mail, Ade Edmondson, all those sorts of people, Larry Enfield. So I've always loved it, and then when I was in my sort of late 20s. I started to go to Edinburgh every year for the festival.
Wow.
And that was mine and my now wife's sort of holiday, essentially.
Yeah.
And two things happened. Obviously, she got pregnant, and it was also becoming extraordinarily expensive. I remember staying in a travel lodge for a week, and we paid almost £1,000 in the end for the holiday. But it was the most glorious thing in the world, just to go 5 or 6 shows. I remember June the 1st, the Edinburgh Fringe programme would be delivered, and my wife, I'd sort of circle stuff we'd like to see, and then she cut out the various shows, and then piece them together logistically. Can we get from the Gilded Balloon over to the assembly rooms? Can we walk? And do we need to run? Do we need to get a taxi?
Clearly, she's the brains behind the operation.
She is the brains behind the operation, I have to say. And from there, the stuff. I was trying to remember who we sort of saw, and one of my favourites is Jason Byrne, and then it was the early days of all these people with their first Edinburgh shows. It was Lee Mack, Mighty Boosh, Johnny Vegas, Daniel Kitson, Ross Noble, Andrew Maxwell, Dylan Moran.
Andrew Maxwell's quality.
All
quality.
Starting out, and he was, Andrew Maxwell in particular would host Late and Live, which is a notorious bear pit of comedy at Edinburgh that starts at midnight and goes on to 4 o'clock in the morning.
Brilliant. You've got a gig like that next week, haven't you?
Yeah, more of that to come.
It literally is a case of survival, than anything else. So, I love going to Edinburgh, but I go and see national acts when I can. I mean, recently saw Jason Byrne, who for me is the pound for pound the best live comedian I've ever seen. More because he doesn't have a set as such. He just improvises with the audience.
Yeah.
He has a couple of setups, a couple of props, and that's it for 2 hours.
It's a real craft to be able to do that. It's just
It's just astonishing. It transcends sort of acting or even memory of what you're going to say. Just a surrealistic flight of fancy. It's a bit like early Ross Noble for me as well. It sounds a bit like Record Collection. Yeah,
Some of the early
don't like
years.
the later stuff, but yeah. So that's it. It's not so much as I like to, but WUSA is great for checking out Welsh comedy.
Lovely.
So I
Definitely.
love doing it for that reason. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Dave, you're going to stick around with us now, aren't you, for a bit of fun? Jamie's got a quiz coming up, and we're going to talk
hate
a
that word.
little bit about this.
bit of fun.
Little fun.
With a bit of fun on the air, guys.
I'm not going to say banter, though, mate.
No, banter is banned.
I know what happens
on
when
this
I
show.
say banter. We're going to try and sell you some things now in the meantime. Well, not us personally, but the radio station. We'll be back right after this.
And that was David Owens. Really good, great chat. We're back in my car, which for the listener at home is a 11-year-old convertible Peugeot 206cc.
Is it?
Very nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful. You look after that upholstery, look after you, mate.
Just like my girlfriend. The next part of the show is the Ivan Gaskill Invitational pub quiz with Dave Owens himself. Beforehand, I had amazing plans for this quiz to be really good. It was a bit rubbish. There was no sound effects. There was no music, and I don't think Dave really enjoyed himself. Hopefully, you'll find some value in it. Enjoy.
爸的生日太重要，珍珠的心意太奇妙。
Solid name, isn't it?
It is a great name,
It gives this
actually,
quiz, it lends this quiz an amount of gravitas, which
much
isn't
needed,
actually
isn't it?
there. And the format is, Dave, is that every week we're going to ask the guest 5 questions based on a particular subject.
All right,
Okay.
nice, yeah.
If you get all 5 questions right,
Yeah.
you win a prize. Now,
It's very unlikely.
the prize we've got a very strict budget here on Masa Comedia, so we've only got £1 per week.
Oh, lovely.
And
What else?
if you don't get all 5 questions right, the prize is going to roll over to the next week, and the next guest will get the opportunity to win the prize that you didn't win, and next week's as well. Okay. Now this week the prize is because it's Halloween soon.
Oh my God! Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. if
Ladies and
you could
gentlemen,
see
we
that.
have a 4.5 foot high Fright Night holographic skeleton.
Oh, that's amazing.
if you look on the webcam, I'm going to wave it in front of Swiss's face. There we are. Hiya. So you can win that. So we asked our wonderful guest last week, Bethan Roberts, for a subject to give you the questions on, and she was obviously in a little bit of a morbid mood because she wants me to ask you 5 questions about the flu.
The flu.
okay.
I'm well versed in the flu, man flu especially.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So are you sitting comfortably?
I am.
Are you ready?
Go on.
Well, let the Ivan Gaskill Invitational pub quiz commence. Question number 1. The word flu is short for what?
Oh, would that be influenza?
Absolutely correct. Well done.
Amazing. Well done, Dave. Well done, Dave. Just to
problem.
interrupt you there, Jamie, a second. You've asked me to play some quiz music here. I'm having a look around for some cheesy quiz music.
Have you got it?
I have, yes. This is Dr. Dre. It's the instrumental, mate. He's not going to swear.
Has you actually got Dr. Dre for the quiz music?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay,
How
question
cool is that?
number 2.
Yeah.
Are you sitting comfortably?
Indeed.
In Spanish flu,
Yeah.
the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 was the most deadly strain of flu to date. Thanks, Bethan, for this. This killed over 200 million people worldwide. What percentage of the world's population at the time was that? Was it A, 75%? Was it B, 5%? Or was it C, 100%? Did it kill everyone?
I'd go B.
It's correct, it's B, 5%. Well
Nice
done.
one,
There's 2
Dave.
questions
Ooh.
in. Moving on quickly to the third one. The avian influenza strand H5N1 is also known as what?
Bird flu.
Bird flu!
Oh, bang!
He's nearly there.
3 of 3.
Two more questions, David, and you win the prize.
Always tense.
Question number 4. This is quite simple. It's true or false.
Yeah.
And it's your specialist subject. It's man flu. Man flu is simply a cold, the symptoms of which are greatly exaggerated by men. True or false?
Oh, is it difficult? God, is it true?
Oh, we can go for true. Yes, we can
It
go for
works
true.
either way,
We
doesn't
can
it?
go for true. It works either way. I mean, some people on manflu.com, manflufacts.com, it says that man flu is a serious and potentially life-threatening illness, and will no doubt soon be on the health and safety executive list of reportable diseases. But I suppose if there are any ladies listening, yes, true, it isn't a real disease.
It's literally just above Ebola in the world's most deadly disease.
Pretty much it. Yeah.
Let's be fair.
Okay, last question, and your chance to win the skeleton of victory.
Oh my God.
What are you going to do with it if you win, Dave?
I'm going to probably scare the hell out of bejesus out of my 5-year-old daughter. I would
There we
imagine
go.
to the point where she wants to move out with her mother and never see her father again.
It's my childhood you've just described there. Thanks very much.
Sorry, divorced parents.
Okay.
Yeah.
The word influenza was first used in the English dictionary to refer to the disease we know as today by J. Hugger of the University of Edinburgh in his thesis De Catro Epidemia vel Influenza. In what year was this seminal thesis published?
What?
I can repeat the question if you'd like, Dave.
Yes, please. I just want to hear you say feces.
The word influenza was first used in the thesis by J. Hugger of the University of Edinburgh in what year?
Is that feces or feces?
It's thesis
this quiz is turning into about
Thesis.
Sorry. I would have been impressed if he'd written it in his own feces. But
I
I'm
have to
gonna
rush you,
go,
What year, David?
1907.
1907. I'm afraid it's 1703. You've not won, unfortunately, David.
no.
Well, unlucky. It's a good effort anyway.
Absolutely brilliant,
never
mate.
mind.
Next week's contestant is going to get the chance to win the holographic skeleton and another prize worth £1. That's going to be a £2 prize pot, ladies and gentlemen.
They are so
I personally can't wait. Dave, your honour of taking part as a quiz, you get to pick next week's subject. What would you like us to write the quiz about?
Oh my God! Now you put me on the spot.
Anything. If you want a little bit of time to think about that, mate,
Let's
then
have
that's
a
fine.
think. I'm gonna go for the discography of the Wurzels.
Oh,
the discovery of that's it. So next week, who's next week's guest? Tony,
Charlie Smith.
Charlie Smith.
Oh
if,
no, Charlie's
Yes.
a Wurzels fan.
Charlie
no,
Smith, if
imagine
you're
it.
listening next week, it is your chance to win £2 worth of tat is is going to be on the discography.
I don't know. It's a back
Isn't that a pub in King Coffee? The discography of the Wurzels. Excellent, Dave.
That's brilliant. I just had a couple of texts I'd like to read out here. My girlfriend's also texted me as well, and she's just apologised and said that she hasn't bought me cheese of any kind. And her friend has actually texted as well and says, I also haven't bought you cheese, and I never will. And she says, discriminations? I was going to say discriminations to you then, Dave, but we're not discriminating against you in any way. But commiserations there, Dave, and Abby passes on her condolences to you and said, I bet he's fluming.
Oh, fair play. Fair
Delicious. We're going to come right back now. Anyway, sorry, but before we go, before we put on Madness Embarrassment, just a massive round of applause for Dave for coming on.
Dave, thank you
has
so
been
much.
Absolutely fantastic. Thanks very much
Thank you,
indeed, mate.
chaps.
You've been a really, really good sport, and yes. Excellent. Thanks very much.
Thanks
indeed,
for
mate.
having me.
Oh, it's
Been an
okay, no
absolute
problem
pleasure.
at all. All this stuff's going to be podcasted on the Masa Comedia Facebook page and Twitter as well, so stay tuned for that. And we're also going to be back in 2 seconds, Jamie and I, with the listings. And here's Madness again.
Just the other day